Next, I'd like to invite up Denise Valenti with Visioncare Immad, please.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here. I'm Dr. Denise Valenti. I'm on adjunct faculty at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, where I teach low vision and geriatrics in the School of Optometry. I am also the CEO of Visioncare Immad. Visioncare Immad technology is a finger tap cell phone application that is intended to measure spatial processing and aspects of cognition through the visual system. It is intended to be a measurement of fitness to drive. I study Alzheimer's and I study Parkinson's. And yes, I have major concerns about those groups driving, but there is a group that has a higher rate of damage and is considered a public health threat to our children, our families, our teenagers and adults. It is those who choose to drive while impaired under the influence of marijuana. Right now, there is no technology available for the 900,000 law enforcement officers who have the responsibility to manage and identify those who are impaired by marijuana. Marijuana has been considered to be dangerous long before there was recreational use and long before there was medicinal use. A study found that for those drivers involved in a fatal accident, 7% tested positive for marijuana. Another study in 2013 found that those drivers who died in a fatal crash, of those that tested positive for drugs, 35% were positive for marijuana, and it's only getting worse. In the recreational states of Washington and Colorado, they have found that those drivers involved in a fatal accident where the only drug in their system was marijuana, that rate has doubled. There is no test for law enforcement. For alcohol, there's a field sobriety test which measures your physical impairment. There's a breathalyzer that measures the biologics, and this matches linearly to blood levels. There is nothing for marijuana. We believe that Immad, our technology, which is essentially in a cell phone, it has blinking stripes. The blinking stripes gradually get dimmer and dimmer. If you are high on marijuana, you cannot see the stripes because the way the marijuana has affected your retina. Marijuana is dangerous for driving. It affects your ability to detect motion, to perceive speed, to detect contrast, and it also impacts the color blue. This is your brain on marijuana. This used in an MRI a signal very similar to what we're putting in Immad. The top is your brain without marijuana. Below, every area in blue is that part of your brain that no longer works because of marijuana, and this impacts driving. This is a technology that is used currently for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and eye disease. It has a flickering set of stripes. By making these stripes blue and yellow, putting them in a cell phone, we now have an objective 2-minute test for law enforcement. A powerful tool for law enforcement to help save lives. You see here a few of the thousands of victims of drug driving. No parent, no mother, no father, no family should ever have to bear the pain of losing a loved one simply because there was no tool for law enforcement to remove them from the road driving. Market for Immad, it's the 900,000 law enforcement officers that are desperate for such a tool. Aviation, railroad and other transportation, and companies requiring precise operation of machinery. 50 states require that you have, after a DUI, a certain level, you have a stop ignition lock device put on your car. 25 of them require them for the first offense. That's the market. Our strategy, we will initially target law enforcement. We feel by a subscription to municipalities for the cell phone app, we can get this to be available for $150 per officer. There are currently no competitors anywhere, none. This is not instead of the breathalyzers under development, it is in addition to that. There was a meeting held, the first ever national conference on cannabinoids. This was the conclusion after the meeting. A functional test is desperately needed. We have that. We have the team to do it. We also have milestones, and we've been in active discussion with interlock companies. So wait, what's all this money here for?
So if,
After that pitch, do I have to answer that, really?
I'm the 60s generation over 60. Maybe that's influencing some of this.
so I have two questions for you. Is it common for officers currently to bring their own device and be using the apps on their own personal devices, or?
No, but right now there's nothing. Now what happens with breathalyzers, usually there's a unit per car. But most officers are carrying around either their cell phone or that. We don't envision it being exclusive to a cell phone. So it might be in a tablet. So it could be such that each car has a tablet.
Okay. And from the clinical validation side, do you have any trials that demonstrate the efficacy?
The MRI, which is not ours, used a similar signal, and it clearly showed that your brain stops working with that kind of signal. We are currently in process to be affiliated with an NIH project. The difficulty with any federally funded project is you have to use federal marijuana. We feel that we need to do different funding. Federal marijuana is low potency and it has no THC. It's grown on a farm in Mississippi. It was developed in the 60s. People that have to use it in research say they think they rolled the joints in the 60s. The street drug is much more powerful. So we feel we need, in order for our peer-reviewed published papers to stand up in court, we need to do even more than just the basic science. The other barrier, if you do anything related to marijuana, is you can't get federal loans. So we're really in a difficult position compared to any other business.
Thank you.
Are the results actionable? What are the laws, and how do you link a particular performance on your cell phone and on the test back to being legal or illegal, and what a police officer can then do?
Well, with the breathalyzer right now, there's no definition for cannabis, and that's being worked on in Colorado.
Okay.
The same thing would happen to have to happen with this.
So you need those standards to
You
be
would
set
need it
that-
validated, and
Got
it would have to result, it would be different than basic science, because whatever publications have to stand up in court too. You want to look at how the prosecuting attorney is going to be using it. Right now, there's nothing.
You also want to look at how the defense attorney will go after it, and look at the process. So, a question to your team, the team building. You have the science there. Between now and it being used across the country, there's going to be a lot of lobbying that has to be done to get the standards in place and the laws in place where it can actually lead to a criminal offense. And there is the whole notion of how you're going to build the sales. What's the sales model?
Well,
who do you have to hire and pull together over the next couple of years?
Right now, the states, Washington and Colorado, are desperate. We already have breathalyzers to kind of compare it to, because those aren't standards either. And the standards for a marijuana breathalyzer will be very, very different than the standards in the way it operates with alcohol breathalyzers.
But they're not using those yet, are they?
No, they aren't, but
Okay.
they are in the process. So how those are adopted, how that moves through the process for adopters within municipalities, within states, is going to be modeled. We will start modeling after that. We are already receiving enthusiastic, when do you have it, when can we start using it? We're in conversations with the state of Washington on how to start moving it forward in some of their programs. It is a complicated issue because we have to use a federally banned product to actually test it, which is complicated in itself. We are already considering, had we had the opportunity to get a small business loan, we were actually going to go to Uruguay. And that way we would have actually, because it's fully legal there, we would have had IRB compliant materials, we would have had the ability to be accepted into a peer-reviewed journal. Right now, it's really difficult to do something that meets scientific rigor in the United States. Sorry. We are getting tremendous support from groups like MAD and victims groups. They are providing some of the better, more quality networking opportunities for me because it's not soon enough for anybody.